With few resources left to him, Viktor concentrated on agricultural problems. His work was devoted to increasing the Earth's vitality and to encourage the buildup and preservation of the insulating skin of the Earth. He condemned all kinds of artificial fertilizer which exhaust the soil and upsets the delicate balance of nature. Viktor had never turned his back on the ancient farming traditions. Rather, he enjoyed the company of old farmers and a simple country life. He had said, the old farmer was, for the clod of the earth, both its priest and doctor. In Schauberger's writings, he relates one ancient practice that had survived up to his time, and that was called the practice of clay singing. When Schauberger first heard about this, he went over to visit an old farmer, and he heard the farmers singing, and he thought the farmer had gone mad. He went and checked it out, and he saw him stirring just clear water in a barrel. Get a vortex going in one direction, then reverse it the other way. And he would throw like little handfuls of loamy soil in every now and then. And on the counterclockwise stir, he would sing upscale from very deep bass up to high falsetto, and then reverse that on the clockwise, going downscale. And then this water was taken and sprayed with like a broom, like this, and it would be sprayed around on the land and allowed to dry. And this would leave like a very fine crystalline structure which would help charge up the land organically. This spade was based on Viktor Schauberger's agricultural theories. It's a solid oak spade coated with copper. Now, Viktor noticed that with the decline of the ancient agricultural methods, like the use of the wooden plow, that there came a concomitant decrease in the fertility of the soil. The soil would dry out and not sustain life. Now, Viktor discovered that this was due to the iron plows that were coming into use, cutting the magnetic lines of the earth, and the earth would lose its charge, the water levels would drop. It was just generally detrimental to the plants. And Viktor felt this was a serious problem that had to be looked into. And in his researches, he discovered that copper, when used on farming implements, greatly increased the fertility of the soil and allowed it to remain rich and moist and supportive of life. This patent for Viktor's copper plow was granted in 1950. Many of these golden plows, as they became known, were manufactured, but pressure from the fertilizer industry halted their production. He also worked on this model for a spiral plow, which would move the earth in a centripetal motion, copying the work of a mole as it burrows underground. This type of implement opened up a whole new field of biological machinery for agriculture. But despite his wonderful discoveries, and with increasing bitterness, Viktor realized that all of his attempts to alert the establishment to the breakdown of the ecological order were falling on deaf ears. He had fought all his life for the water, the forests, and the earth itself, but had in return been attacked, persecuted, and impoverished. His health was also failing. It was then that two Americans appeared and offered unlimited funds if he would travel to America and impart his knowledge for the good of humanity. Or so they said. Viktor and his son were flown to Texas and taken to the solitude of the desert, far from his beloved forests and streams. There was no communication with the outside world. The post was censored. The funds never materialized, and Project Implosion, as it was called, became a nightmare experience. Finally, after being tricked into signing everything over to these men, Viktor was permitted to return to Austria. 5 days after he returned home, he died in despair, saying, "They took everything from me. Everything. I don't even own myself." But his message of survival is more urgent than ever before. The only way left is a return to nature. Elements die as men die on account of the corruption in them. As water at its death, as it were, consumes and devours its own fruit, so does the earth its own fruits. Whatever is born from it returns to it again, is swallowed up and lost, just as the time past is swallowed up by yesterday's days and nights, the light or darkness of which we shall never see again. It is no weightier today than yesterday, not even by a single grain, and will, after 1,000 years, be of the same weight still. As it gives forth, so in the same degree it consumes. The death of the water, however, is in its own proper element, in that great terminus and center of water, the sea, wherein the rivers and whatever else flows into it die and are consumed as wood in the fire. Rivers, indeed, are not the element of water, but the fruit of that element, which is the sea. From this they derive their origin, and in this they receive both their life and their death.